What up guys, SuperMetal983 here bringing you another album review, and this time we've got some absolutely monolithic tunes for you to check out today. But yeah, I'm going to be reviewing the new album from the band Decapitation entitled Terrasite. This is released under Metal Blade Records. Now, if you're not too familiar with Decapitation, you should be by now. They are one of the best upcoming and most original sounding death metal grindcore bands in the whole realm and genres right now. They are such an original sounding band, and if you're not familiar with them, you should be. They are absolutely incredible. They are a 5-piece band hailing from the US, and I've been a fan of these guys for quite a few years now. My first introduction to them was back in the day. I think I discovered them through MySpace, which was their album entitled The Harvest Floor. Now, this album, for me, was an absolutely obliterating piece of Deathgrind. It's just absolutely incredible and absolutely obliterating, just filth and infested, just disgustingness. It's absolutely incredible. If you need an album, in my personal opinion, that album is probably one of the most underrated albums in their entire discography. It's absolutely incredible, if you ask me. But the main album that I particularly fell in love with this band and fell for them was their album in 2012 entitled Monolith of Inhumanity. Now, this album, for me, I still can't believe it's been 10 years since this album, but this album, I remember when I first heard it, I was blown away by it, and I'm sure a lot of people were, because this album is an absolute masterpiece of death metal and grindcore in cohesive harmony, but adding more progressive and more atmospheric and just massiveness to it, and just creating this new abrasive sound that no one had heard before. And still to this day, I'd still give it a 10 out of 10. It's an absolute masterpiece, if you ask me. And it showed that that on the Harvest Floor, they had that sound, but you can hear sort of the elements that they were trying to throw into it, just tease us. And then they evolved that into Monolith of Inhumanity to become an absolute powerhouse that it is. And then fast forward to 2015, and we get another album entitled The Anthropocene Extinction, which was a continuation of the Monolith of Inhumanity sound and overall atmosphere. And to me anyway, it is still a solid as fuck album, but for me personally, I think it doesn't live up to Monolith of Inhumanity as much. As far as songwriting goes and overall production, yes, I would agree. But just for overall atmosphere and just overall just feels, it just didn't feel as strong of an album to me as Monolith of Inhumanity. I think that's mainly because it's a 10 plus out of 10. That's a masterpiece, and you're following up a perfect album in my eyes. It's going to have those sort of moments, you know. And don't get me wrong, it is a solid album to listen to, and when I'm in the right mood, it hits the spot. But it just doesn't hit the spot as much as Monolith does, in my personal opinion. And then fast forward a couple of years, and then we get their absolute powerhouse album, Death Atlas, which pushed them into an even more bigger light than they already had been. And oh my god, this album was something else. This took the atmosphere and the overall monolithicness that they had and just made it bigger and just more massive. It just felt huge, and just the overall performances, the songwriting, the production, everything was just there, and it sounded incredible, if you ask me. And Dave Otero has done an absolutely incredible job with these albums that I'm talking about so far, pushing his production, and you can see the growth in his sound and understanding of the Decapitation sound and what they were going for, and just because it seemed like the Monolith of Inhumanity sounded pretty raw and very natural in its overall mixing, whereas it gets more cleaner, but it still keeps that atmosphere and a little bit of rawness behind it to give it that overall intensity and just grit. And it worked so well on Death Atlas, and I'm not gonna lie, like, when I first heard it, I felt the same as the Anthropocene of, like, yeah, it's really good, but I think it was not too long after the year was up, I think it was, I truly started to get a grasp on the album and really connect well with it, and it's absolutely incredible. I think it's better than better than the Anthropocene. It's right up there, if you ask me. And then we get to 2023 with the arrival of a new album entitled Terrasite, and we're here to dissect it right now. So yeah, it's 10 songs and runs around 53 minutes in length, and I have a lot of thoughts about this album, because this, in my opinion, is like Death Atlas, just with so much more going for it, if you ask me. Like, this has way more, how should we say, more personality and a bit more of a wow factor straight from the get-go, but it also stands out way more than Death Atlas did, in my personal opinion. And the way I think that is just the overall production from the get-go on the first track, Terrasite Adaptation. You know I'm shit at pronunciation. Yeah, that first track coming in with that really eerie atmosphere and overall just creepy sort of vibes going for it, and then it just comes in with that massive chord progression, and you're just like, oh, this is setting us up for a cattle. And then it just comes in with that terror scream of Travis Wright, and you're just like, oh, this is what I need. This is what I fucking need. And oh my god, that moment I was like, I was just, at that moment I was just listening to the album, and then I just fell down, and I was just like, okay, I need to hear this, like, I need to hear this as well. And I just sat and listened to the whole album through, and oh my god, it just gave me goosebumps from beginning to end. And when I say from beginning to end, it didn't let up at all. There wasn't a moment where I wasn't like, wow, wow, wow. Because this gave me the same butterflies, the same overall just shock value that when I heard Monolith. Like, what can I say? Decapitation are becoming such a powerhouse, and they are such an original sounding band. There is no other band on this fucking planet that sound like Decapitation. You just can name Aborted or Benighted or Cephalic Carnage or anyone like that. No one sounds like Decapitation, and they do it so fucking well. They are masters. I mean, masters of their craft. Like, they have got an original sound, and they know what they're trying to pull off. And this album is the perfect representation and overall just the overall feel for this album is very demented at the same time. Like, it is, and that's not just coming from a vocal performance. I'm talking about guitars, bass and drums, and overall atmospheres that are coming behind the musicians here. Like, starting with Dave's drumming. Dave McGraw is one of the best death metal drummers right now, because his blast beats are so fast and so intense and filled with so much power, but his creativity in the blast, just creating atmosphere and slowing it down when it needs to be, but overall his extreme metal drumming, I'm talking about the blast beats and stuff, are just something to behold. Like, he is an absolute machine on the drums, and the overall drum production sounds absolutely massive on here. Like, overall, as I said, Dave Otero is pushing his envelope, but the drum sound is easily something to praise here, because it sounds absolutely incredible. Every cymbal accent, every snare hit, every kick drum, it just sounds, the sound is there, direct and cutting through the mix so fine. It's just a snap, bang, wallop. It sounds fucking incredible, if you ask me. And I will say as well, what's his name, Oliver, yeah, his bass work is something that definitely was a standout for me. And going back to standout bass, that's one of the things that I loved about the Harvest Floor, is that really disgusting bass tone. But this tone is easily one of the best of the newer era since Monolith, if you ask me. Like, the tone of it overall, just cutting through the mix, you can feel every impact and just chunk coming through. It's a bit, it's a very bright and very percussive sounding bass. It's like very clanky in a way, but it still feels massive in the mix. It's not just clanky for the sake of cutting through the mix. It sounds massive and just huge behind those guitars. And I will say as well, what's his name? I can't pronounce his name, but the guitar work on this album as well, I will say one thing I admire about Cattle is they play, and I believe it's E flat standard, I think it is. Like, it's quite a high tuning. They can pump out some of the heaviest fucking riffs and just songs that any band in, like, from Drop C and even down to the 9-string tuners could wish they could get this fucking heavy tone. And this just sounds it as well. And I will say it as well, for it being a grindy sort of death metal release, there is some fucking riffs on here. Like, there is headbangable moments, there is grind, there is stank, there's even some slammier moments on here that really catch you off guard. Like, some of the slammier moments are not too slammy and too slow. They're just there to add like a bit of filth on top of it, just to break up the atmosphere, but they're executed in a perfect, coherent sort of way, and cohesive as fuck. Like, I mean, like, every song, every riff is there for a reason. Every drum part, it is so intricately well written, like, in sort of like a masterpiece sort of form. Like, it's all written in the right sort of mindset and in the right order. It just feels like a cohesive flow throughout it. And I will say, We Eat Our Young and Scourge of the Offspring that they've released so far as music videos sound absolutely incredible, I will say. But when I got this promo to hear the album, I was in love with those two songs as well, like, especially Scourge of the Offspring. Like, it's an absolutely incredible song. But I would have to say that my favourite song, The Insignificance, which is the 4th track on this album, it sounds fucking incredible, and the eeriness towards the end of it is just, it's quite unnerving, it's scary, in fact, to an essence. Like, it just shakes the foundations of your core, basically. Like, you feel disgust and you feel on edge listening to that end. Like, there's just something about it. Like, they did some of this sort of stuff on Death Atlas. It kind of feels like, and it's across this entire album, kind of like Travis has this kind of like, obviously, you know, the shrilly sort of like half scream tunnel throw thing that he does, but he's added in the past 2 albums this sort of like, it's kind of like an influence from like Peter Steele of Type O Negative sort of way, like a bit of a doomy sort of voice in there, and it really adds so fucking much atmosphere to this overall record that you're just like, you're captivated by it. And that's just the character of Cattle Decapitation. Like, you're captivated by all these progressions, all these changes and subtle hints in there that you're just mesmerised by the overall dynamics of and songwriting and structure of what's going on. And it's really interesting to hear it one time, and then you'll go back to it and you'll hear like another moment and you're just like, I didn't recognise that. And it just makes them stand out as a band. And that's one of the reasons I believe why they are getting big, is because not just are they just filth-riddenly heavy, but they have such an intricate style that everyone is impressed by them. And there's loads of people who can try and mimic it, or even try and basically be that style, and they can't pull it off because they are not Cattle Decapitation. And that leads us on to Travis's just like everyone knows him for his like singing half scream sort of thing that I've just mentioned, but his gutturals are just, they sound so vomitous and just putrid and just disgusting and just sickly. Like, they sound like absolute filth-ridden, just gargled, infested goodness. Like, he is an absolute powerhouse. He is a fucking, and I don't know if people go about this, but he is an S-tier vocalist, and no one can fucking argue with that, because he has such a fucking range, from his like mid-range shouty sort of vocals to his gargle infested just death grind, gore grind, pure filthy riddenness, to these majestic sort of cleans that it seems like from Monolith to now, the overall like tone and control that he has over it, and just range in that, so he can hit that note and then just go all over the shop. Like, he can follow the full circle of like different ranges, from like higher like shrieks in his cleans to like bellowing these like doomy sort of like, as I said, type O negative sort of things, and then just hitting the like the filthy atmospheric mid sort of tone of it. It's just all there, if you ask me, and it really showcases the band and just makes them not just another brutal band, but cattle decapitation. That's all you can say. It is cattle decapitation. And this album, to me, for all, personally, it's not quite as, doesn't hold, it, maybe in a couple of years, it might hold a candlelight to Monolith of Inhumanity, but to me anyway, this is their second best album to date. Like, I absolutely love this record. It is an absolute fucking masterpiece of just brutal, technical, grinding, just absolute huge monolithicness, and you're gonna absolutely love this album. And I would say Scourge of the Offspring, The Insignificance, and also the sixth track, and there's another one, And the World Will Go On Without You, and also Just Another Body, the last track, is like a 10-minute massive anthem conclusion to this album. I think this is absolutely incredible. Like, every bit, from the guitar work to the bass work, drum work, and vocals, production, and even the artwork. I will say about the artwork, when I first saw it, I know it got leaked, like the track list and the artwork got leaked, like, I think it was like a month or something like that before the album initially was going to be announced. So the band had to push it forward. When I first saw them, I actually first saw them announce the artwork, and then I heard about the leak. But I honestly, at first, I wasn't too overwhelmed with the artwork. I thought it was a bit, it was cool. I kind of looked like it there. But yeah, I thought it was, it's okay. But then as I heard the lyrics and listened to the album, listened to the singles, and saw like the full piece of the artwork, it made more sense. I was like, yeah, the concept and all that, it all makes sense, and I've grown to love it. I actually think it fits in with the overall cattle decapitation sort of sound and image, and just I just love like the whole human skeleton thing on the floor, and then it's coming out as a bug basically, and it just really looks really cool. It looks like an involvement or de-evolution, whatever. It looks so cool. I really like it, and honestly, I think this is an absolutely incredible album, and it's in the top realm of my top albums for this year. And honestly, I'm going to give this a solid 10 out of 10. I can't fault this album. Every time I listen to it, I fall in love with it. There is nothing I would change about it. It is an absolute masterpiece. And Cattle should be proud of this. They are going to dominate the world with this. They are already dominating the world, but they are going to turn it inside out. Absolutely incredible stuff. So yeah, make sure you check out me other reviews that I've done on my channel. Make sure you subscribe and leave a like and comment and all that stuff. But yeah, and also check out my Super Metal Risk for Days playlist, which is down below in the description. But yeah, I'll see you until next video, and remember, stay metal, and I'll see you later.